Well, it's a disheartening debacle to watch unfold for anyone who is trying to create content that exposes any sort of truth in the world or criticizes the establishment, which, it used to be that you could criticize the president in the United States. Free speech covered all kinds of all kinds of issues, your political stances, your personal stances. You could say pretty much whatever you wanted as long as you're not inciting violence against someone else. But clearly, even with 6 million subscribers, as this guy says, 6 million subscribers on YouTube, and now Russell Brand has had his channel demonetized. He's not been found guilty of anything yet in court. It's just accusations, but that's enough. This was the aim from the start: silence dissenting voices, silence critics, control speech. And it's working masterfully. Obviously, they have control of the system to the point where they can choose people, and just on allegations, no convictions, innocent till proven guilty in this country and in the UK. And companies like YouTube are saying, oh, perfect excuse. We've been waiting for something to happen that would give us the excuse to punish this person who is saying unwanted information. So we've got two other videos we're going to watch which further highlights the situation.
You had a brief sort of, well, not really a romance with Russell, but you had something with him, right?
Yeah, we had a little encounter back in 2006. I went to his flat. We had a little bit of a fumble. We got to crunch point, and I'm like, no.
And you're a comedian.
Yeah, and I wasn't back then. I was a model and a dancer. And yeah, so he was fine with me. He was really polite, and I felt safe with him. So.
And when you said you didn't want to go any further, how was he then?
He was fine. There was no problem at all. Everything that happened was consensual. And then in 2015, I was very involved in a political campaign that Russell Brand was leading, and he was helping women keep their social homes. So if
and you never heard any rumours?
Nobody said to me, "Oh, be careful around Russell Brand." I drove a van that had the truths on the side. It advertised his cafe. He was doing a lot of good work. So I got to know him as an activist and a good man. So, I'm not going to automatically believe anonymous people coming forward, especially having been in the entertainment industry my whole life and knowing how manipulative and narcissistic some people in this industry can be.
So, not everybody out there believes that Russell Brand is a complete piece of human trash, including myself. I used to hate the man. During his actual Hollywood career, I thought that he was one of the biggest douchebags that on the face of the planet, to be honest. And it wasn't until maybe around 2015 where I saw his YouTube channel and started, checking out a couple of his videos, and I said, this guy is not anything like what I thought he was going to be like. He's not a douche. He's genuinely trying to help people. He's genuinely trying to talk about things that do not seem to be honestly reported on. He is highlighting, information that is kind of being suppressed or just underreported. And as someone who is trying to do something similar, again, this is very disheartening to watch this happen. Even if you do make it past all the hurdles and you become successful, you got a channel with 6 million subscribers, and you're trying to inform the world and help push back against people that don't have good intentions, and media that is not reporting the facts. It's reporting the facts that it wants you to know, not the actual facts that are, unfiltered and all this stuff, uncurated, uncontent moderated, uncensored. It's not like a good career path to try to talk about the truth, clearly. And they're trying to illustrate that to anyone who's watching. So I guess you just got to be dumb enough to keep going anyway.
Yes.
Out of respect for you and your show, I've brought some facts. Would you
if you like, they're actually...
You just get the fuck out of here. This is not the place.
I thought you'd like facts.
We love facts. I love facts.
I wouldn't have mentioned it. I'm English, and you know that politeness is our fundamental religion.
Yeah.
But they do pertain to this issue, so may I say some of them? If they inconvenience you, I'll stop saying them. The pandemic created at least 40 new big pharma billionaires. Pharmaceutical corporations like Moderna and Pfizer made $1,000 of profit every second from the COVID-19 vaccine. More than two-thirds of Congress received campaign funding from pharmaceutical companies in the 2020 election. Pfizer chairman Albert Bourla told Time magazine in July 2020 that his company was developing a COVID vaccine for the good of humanity, not for money. And of course, Pfizer made $100 billion in profit in 2022. And may I just mention, finally, and this is also a fact, that you, the American public, funded the development of that. The German public funded the BioNTech vaccine. When it came to the profits, they took the profits. When it came to the funding, you paid for the funding. All I'm querying is this.
Yes.
Is if you have an economic system in which pharmaceutical companies benefit hugely from medical emergencies, where a military-industrial complex benefits from war, where energy companies benefit from energy crises, you are going to generate states of perpetual crisis, where the interests of ordinary people separate from the interests of the elite.
I mean, how much more can you pack into a minute and 33 seconds? That's the reason that they're trying to shut him up, because he's talking about things that you're not supposed to talk about. We all know that, and a lot of us are being good boys and girls, and we're keeping our mouths shut about things that we don't know anything about. Stay in your lane. You know, you don't have the right to talk. And then this is also beautifully worded. Couldn't say it better myself, so I'm just gonna read what's on the screen. I've been asked, how do you know Russell Brand is not guilty? I don't, and that's the point. Nobody does, except for the parties involved. If a court of law finds him guilty, I'll call him out. Until then, he's an innocent man. Imagine just being accused and having your life destroyed. So I think we should all do well to remember that none of us are immune from this system if you aren't a billionaire. And so if you condone this type of treatment for others, God forbid you ever say the wrong thing. God forbid the tide ever turns and your viewpoint becomes vilified and unwanted. And these same mechanisms that you helped develop get turned against you. Similar to what's going on with the Democrats and Joe Biden. During the Trump presidency, they spent 4 years of almost constant impeachment inquiries and attempts to get him impeached, removed from office, whatever they could do. And now, lo and behold, they're surprised when those same systems start to, and they aren't fully brought to bear against them, but those same systems have been developed and the American public have seen them operate, and there is almost an expectation of fairness. Well, if you're going to do it to this guy over here, shouldn't you be accountable to the same standard? If you're saying that, Donald Trump is evil and colluding with other countries and taking payoffs from Russia, and we're trying to prove Russia collusion, well, what about Ukrainian collusion? What about China collusion? What about the Hunter Biden laptop? What about the information that is on that regarding, at the very least, gross misconduct of Hunter, who Joe defends and says is squeaky clean, and at the very worst shows evidence of potentially peddling influence for money inside those countries, selling American political candidates or political representatives to the highest bidder to do whatever foreign country wants you to do. That's treason. Your first responsibility as an elected official in this country is to serve America and the American public. And if you are prioritizing foreign donors, foreign agendas, and taking bribes while holding that position, then I think that accusations of treason should be investigated by an independent authority, and we should get to the bottom of it. The American people deserve to know the truth of what their elected political representatives are doing, how they generate sums of wealth in the hundreds of millions in some cases while making $175,000 a year. They must have a successful business that we don't know about or something, because the only other thing they have to sell is themselves and their political acumen, their political power. And it really seems like a lot of them are doing that or using insider information to trade the market and make money, in some cases using their husband or another family member to funnel that whole operation through. But either way, there's a lot of corruption going on and only a very few investigations. So that says to me that anyone who's not being investigated, but likely on the publicly available information, looks to be involved in some level of corruption based on the amount of money that they've generated in a short amount of time. If those people aren't being investigated, then I have to assume that they're part of the system, they're part of the uniparty, they are part of the protected class that will not be sacrificed, that will not be investigated. They only sacrifice one or two here and there when they need to feed something to the wolves because they're hungry and they're mad, and we have to give them some corrupt politician to shut them up. But the rest of us can stay behind the curtain and just keep doing what we're doing. So anyway, we'll see what happens, but until he's convicted, we should treat him like an innocent man, and that's certainly not the behavior that you see from the people in charge, the adults in the room, our leaders, who are behaving like spoiled children and who are clearly telling you that they're not corrupt, while at the same time using tactics that seem to be pretty corrupt against people, and the media is supporting it instead of calling out any sort of corruption or vilification. So this is the world we live in. Only we can make it better. So I hope people are willing to stand up, take a hard look at this, and decide if they're okay with it. If you're okay with it, fine. But if you don't like it, we do need to become involved. We do need to stand up for children who can't stand up for themselves. We do need to stand up for people who can't stand up for themselves. It is our duty to defend those who cannot defend themselves, and to speak for those who cannot speak for themselves, as adults who want to make the world a better place. So take care, and I'll talk to you guys again soon.